Well, thank you to the Asia Society for the invitation. As Isabel said, I'm just giving a short introduction to our organization RELP, and then speaking about the problem of the energy transition, what it means in terms of the barriers most countries face in the developing world, and a mix of a solution we are designing at RELP to address these challenges. So RELP is an impact-driven, not-profit organization. All we do is supporting governments in emerging and developing economies to really attract investments in renewables. We focus on designing and implementing programs for renewables, mainly auctions, design and implementation. Our group, we are around 45 people, fully dedicated to auction design implementation, policy research, economics, and legal, the structuring of the legal framework. We have a quite interesting, successful case in Latin America. As part of the government between 2016 and 2019, we implemented the Renovar program in a very challenging environment in Argentina. And for the first time, the country was able to attract $7 billion investment in US dollars, mainly in wind and solar projects. 150 plus projects were developed. And that was kind of a significant achievement in difficult countries where nobody was interested in investing just before. Also reducing the prices of renewables by 5-folds and so forth. So quite a successful case. When we exited the government in 2019, we decided to form a non-profit to help other governments basically go through the similar process. We focus, as I said, on auctions and de-risking tools for governments to attract investments. Here is our executive team. I'm not going to spend much time. I think that the slides will be shared after. We are quite proud of our board of advisors with some interesting personalities in the energy and climate space, as Michael Liebreich, which is a co-founder, Rachel Kite, former CEO of the UN Sustainable Energy for All initiatives, and others. Our mission is really, as I said, to unlock markets, renewable energy markets in emerging economies, and we really believe program-based solutions like auctions are a kind of a powerful tool to do so. So all our offer is around, as I said, the design of robust legal frameworks, and also the implementation, which in our opinion is as important as drafting good contracts and documents, RFPs, PPAs, and so forth. We do, thanks to the support of philanthropies and climate foundation active in the climate space, we provide our support free of charge. We cover all aspects of renewable energy procurement, from the review of the policies, drafting new regulations, de-risking mechanisms as guarantees, and the tool I'm talking in few minutes will be about that mostly. And we also provide a lot of capacity building in the process to public officials. In Asia, we are currently working in the Philippines for the Department of Energy and the Energy Regulation Commission, basically helping them improving the current existing green energy auction program, which was launched last year by the government, and also analyzing some of the key features of that, including also the presentation and the definition of the ceiling prices of the auctions and many other details. We are starting to work in Pakistan, supporting the government there for a quite ambitious renewable energy program, which involves also some fuel substitution and some of the issues that Philip talked about before. We see them very present in that country as well, but very interested in terms of the potential and the need for cheaper renewables to substitute some of the more expensive fossil fuels. We are doing some preliminary work also in other countries, Laos and Vietnam, with mainly working with department within the governments for energy planning, and so preliminary activities leading then hopefully to a roadmap for designing renewable auctions or renewable energy program. On the left, you see some of the foundations are supporting us, allowing us to work independently for the countries. And on the right side, we have you see some of our partners. It's a mix of international partners like IRENA, RMI, more relevant for Asia. For sure, it's the Energy Transition Partnership and CSEF, which is a fund that provides seed capital for project development. Planative is a consultancy that work with us and support our work in Pakistan. So the problem is well known. In capital investments in renewables doesn't flow at the necessary scale in developing economies. We need to act faster and much faster. I mean, we are speaking about a sevenfold increase in investments that is needed to meet both the energy needs and also to meet the climate goals that were set in Paris, which is kind of a big challenge ahead. And the second big point I'm going to speak today is about risk, right? The risk, the perception of, and the real risks that these markets are facing is basically the main cause for basically lower investment in general, but also much higher prices in terms of the electricity for the people. So most of the work we do is about understanding better risks in each of these markets. Specific, I mean, country risk, but then also more specifically in the renewable energy space. We see across different geographies very similar types of risks being recurrent, which is liquidity, so basically the risk of not getting paid from the project side, or having the payment delayed. And then there are some typical country risks in terms of inflation, our currency, inconvertibility or non-transferability, and change of the rule of the game, right, in terms of the change of the main policies or regulations affecting the project cash flows. There are also some other typically areas of concern, which are more typically related to the projects, so the permitting processes, how the projects can be connected to a grid that not always is there and has to be developed in parallel, and how these, and then other issues like more financial in terms of the indexation to inflation and in the tariffs and these other things. Of course, there is not a solution for all of these. So in our experience, especially in this market, you need a mix of tools, right? Which starts with a good procurement program, which is predictable, and then robust contracts, and then where it is needed, the guarantees. In our experience in Latin America, but also in our research in some of these markets in Asia, guarantees are quite a powerful tool that, if used correctly, can really help these countries unlock markets and reduce the cost of electricity, of clean electricity in an interesting way, in a significant way. So on the left side, you see the impact of guarantees in terms of expanding the tenor of the loans. And on the right side, you see really the impact on the spreads that are paid by project sponsors, which in many cases, in many countries, is actually more than 50% of the total capital cost. So the solution we are designing is inspired by what we used successfully in Argentina, which was a national fund, a trust fund, to provide guarantees to be awarded at program level. So it's not a project-by-project product, but is really embedded in the procurement process, and it's awarded automatically to all IPPs that are winning in the procurement, in the auctions. It's basically designed as a channel for available funding from MDBs, philanthropies, and other private and institutional investors, really to provide two types of guarantees. One is a liquidity guarantee, what we call a revolving energy payment guarantee. basically, as I said, covering the risk of non-payment or delays of payment from the off-taker. This is typically covers from 3 to 12 months of energy payments, and can really be an interesting cushion from the project sides, not to have to basically maximize and minimize the cost of financing in the financial scheme of the projects. The idea is to give this automatically, as I said, and free of charge to all awarded IPPs. Leveraging mainly cash from philanthropies, donors, and also some part of skin in the game from governments. In Argentina, what was interesting is the first round of auction. We ran four auctions there in 3 years. The first round was actually covering was requiring 12 months of guarantee. By the last round, given the confidence that was developed in the market, 3 months were enough, right? And if you study the story, even in that very difficult and challenging market, historically the off-taker, the delay of payments from the off-taker was in the range of 3 months maximum. So usually off-takers always delay, but also on the other side always pay, otherwise the country shut down. So calculating and estimating those risks is quite important to then design the scheme. The second product is an early termination payment guarantee and covers some typical country risks, political and financial risks that can affect the termination of the projects. It's given optional, so it's fee-based, and in our experience in Argentina was acquired by around 50% of the participants. The good thing of the existence of this is that can give credibility to all the programs. So it benefits also the IPPs that are not in the end decided to buy it, because they are more comfortable with the country risk, because maybe they are local investors and they are used to that type of risks. This is kind of a very quick image of the funding that comes to the guarantee facilities. As I said, it's a mix of philanthropic funding, funding from existing MDBs and institutional investors. It's a mix of cash contributions for the liquidity guarantee and commitments mainly to deliver cash upon the callable triggering events that are defined in the contracts. The main innovative point here is really, as I said, the programmatic approach. Most of the products used in the market today have a project-by-project approach, which is by definition difficult to scale because all projects have to negotiate bilaterally the contracts. So it's a lengthy process, costly, and on both sides, on the project sponsor side and on the government side. Embedding these tools within the procurement process, it allows for much faster scale up of investments. So the benefits for the host countries to really unlock markets where there were no previous investments, and lower also the cost of renewables, where typically were much higher. I mean, in Argentina, in 2015, there were contracts for solar in the range of $100 and $200 per megawatt hour, and we reduced gradually that price to the 40, 50 range in a matter of 2-3 years. For the IPPs is improve bankability, have some more stable markets, stability where typically historically there was no stability, and let's say this we saw it's quite powerful. I mean, we saw investments coming from all over the world. in this new market from China, from US, from Europe. And that was the diversity of that is also quite important for the sustainability of the program itself. And for the funders, quite interesting is the leverage effect that the guarantees can generate in terms of unlocking the investments and the capital to be invested, which is exactly this representation. We estimated that the financial cost of providing these guarantees compared to the investments that is unlocked, so the investment that is attracted in the country can have a 20x potential, and then of course it depends on the local context. We have some references and extra material here for the people that wants to read more. Thank you. Thank you.
Any questions from the floor?
So as far as I understand, you get invited into a country, you look at the whole energy situation, or you just focus on renewables? The question I would like to go after is, how do you look at the problem of guaranteeing baseload energy in these countries, which is an important question that we tend to forget when we just think about solar and wind power, and each country might have a different solution. Does that go into your equation when you're doing this type of analysis?
Yeah. Yeah, we work with the Ministry of Energy typically, so we work at this more broader energy sector level. All the analysis we start from is actually the energy mix, right? So including fossils and grid context and developments of the grid. So of course renewables are not working in a silos and has to be integrated gradually where possible. So we give our experience. I mean, it differs country by country. Is a different case, right? We work from like in a small country like Jamaica with an auction of 100 megawatt, which is 10% of the energy mix today. So and there is the ambition to scale that to up to 300 megawatts in the next couple of years. So you can imagine there the storage is a big issue, and how you balance that grid is a big issue, because the impact can be quite significant. But we tend to work with of course the grid operator. It's part of the team and the procurement entity that is in charge of the process. It's all. We are not there to propose any new plans, right? We are just there to help them implementing what is feasible. In most countries, you can run first rounds without probably expanding the grid. So you have to identify where the exact nodes where renewables can be injected without more investments. And then you can even run auctions and procurement in parallel, right, for the grid infrastructure typically. So this is done in some countries. We also tried to implement it in Argentina. It didn't work because it was designed for the fourth round. And then the political, the government was not like powerful enough to implement that, but it's doable. And to answer quick, yes, you have to take into consideration the mix, right, the energy mix, and it depends on each country is a different world for that. Yes.
So the multilateral development banks are heavily involved in this. So why don't they issue these guarantees directly? Why do they need to kind of go through a separate entity? I mean, they're well versed in issuing guarantees for all sorts of things, especially when it comes to political risks. Why don't they do it directly, and why not more?
That's a good question. They do have guarantee products, all of them, of course. As I said, they tend to be project-based, and that's one of the, I think, the issues that is kind of a barrier to scale faster, right? So World Bank was part of this, was backstopping the sovereign in Argentina for 750 million for the program. They did it. I mean, the first meetings were it's not possible. So of course, it got like a few months of negotiations. And it took some. That's part of the. That's probably a good answer. The process is political very often, and it's a negotiation. Is always not possible at the beginning. Until then, it happens. And of course, you need the back of the president and the political parties, and so a strong willingness from the government. If that is there, I would say it's possible because we saw it in practice, but it's difficult to achieve because of the same reason, right? So. In that case, the World Bank, and it was the first time they were doing it, they provided this guarantee for the program, and it worked very well. And it's actually working very well for them because it's a good deal for them as well. It's actually the program is, even in this difficult context as Argentina is today, is holding. So it's actually quite a good case study for other countries as well.
On the slide where you showed the funding into the two guarantee mechanisms, there was cash and commitments by the philanthropists, and there were commitments by the other participants. What do you mean by commitments?
Commitments is basically a promise to deliver cash, to put cash in the facility. Sorry?
To what extent are the commitments enforceable? That's my real interest.
It's basically it's written in a contract. Again, it's part of the contractual base of the trust. Of course, it doesn't make sense to have cash in those facilities when you have a process before getting there, right? So you have a liquidity facility that gives a cushion. If the early termination is triggered, of course, that let's say triggers a process where cash is needed, not upfront, right? So that's the commitment as it's callable really upon the existence of this eventual triggering event. In the history of different programs throughout the world, it's kind of a rare event. So not these type of guarantees are very rarely called. Because usually the willingness from the government side and the project side is to keep the project alive, right? So the trust works in that regards to give incentives to postpone the termination and to give everybody some comfort to keep going, right? But then if the early termination is called, of course, there must be a commitment to honor it if the sovereign of the government doesn't do it. So I don't know if I was clear, but
I have a question as well.
Yes.
Since we're already talking about the multilateral development bank's role with iTrust, the example we just heard is from Argentina, and it was working with the World Bank.
Yeah.
I see. So in the context of Asia, then you will have another bunch of multilaterals, especially you will have the very old names, and then you will have the newer development institutions. Do you see that they will give a very different boost to iTrust?
We are in conversations with the ADB and others, MDBs working in the region. As I said, they all have their own products, which they give, of course, priority to. So this type of scheme for them is something new and outside what they are used to. So it's about also aligning some of these the existing products they have with a more programmatic approach. They understand the potential, so they are very interested in at least in validating and understanding where this can fit within their let's say their mandate. And I would say it's again takes some time to talk and negotiate that, but the fact that this was already done in a way that helps a lot. For example, in Pakistan, the World Bank is very open to replicate this model for the country because of this, right? So it's of course we are a starting phase. So I think it will take maybe 1 or 2 markets to redo it. It's kind of a 2.0 version, yes. But we are working for that, yes. And
we wait for the exciting news.
I hope so.
We will have some more question time at the end of the panel. So let's now welcome our third keynote speaker. Thank you very much, Andrea. Thank you.